You were born with a third eye, not metaphorically, literally, but from the moment you opened your eyes, they trained you not to use it. You were taught to look outward, and never inward. From your very first days, they gave you names for every shape, every color, every object in front of you. They built a whole language around what you could physically see, but they never once showed you how to look behind it all. They constructed a world for you brick by brick, pixel by pixel, thought by thought, until you forgot there was ever anything more, anything deeper, anything beneath the surface. But there is. Hidden in the ancient echoes of time, etched into the emerald tablets left behind by Thoth, there's a technique, not a metaphor, a technique, one that can pull back the veil and let you truly see. It was never meant for the crowd. It was meant for the few who were ready, the ones who were ready to reclaim their true sight. This isn't about getting a new way to look at life. It's about finally seeing what they never wanted you to notice in the first place. Think about it. Why do you think you've been taught that intuition is nonsense? That the unseen isn't real? That the only things that matter are the ones you can touch, measure, and prove? It's not just random. It's not just cultural. It's systemic. Because the second you start trusting what you feel as much as what you see, they lose control. You've been trained, conditioned, programmed to rely only on your five physical senses, to stare at the material world and believe it's the whole story. But ancient wisdom, the kind that's been buried for centuries, tells a much different tale. You were born with a gift, a faculty of perception so powerful, so precise, that ancient civilizations from Egypt to Tibet considered it divine. The pineal gland, known by mystics and initiates as the third eye. And it's not just a biological feature. It's not just some obscure gland tucked away in your brain. It's a lens, a receiver, a kind of tuning device for frequencies beyond the physical spectrum. And guess what? It's for most people, it doesn't work. Not because it can't, because it's been shut down, calcified, dulled, numbed, and not by accident, by design. The ancient Egyptians knew about it. That's why they carved it into their temples as the Eye of Horus. The Hindus marked it with the bindi. Gnostic sects, early Christians, even the Sufi mystics, they all spoke about the light that doesn't come from the sky, but from within. They weren't being poetic. They were pointing to an actual inner technology, something real, something powerful, a way to perceive that bypasses the senses entirely. Thoth, scribe, sage, architect of ancient wisdom, encoded it all into his texts, especially the emerald tablets. He wrote about fire within about the inner light, and he meant it. These weren't just mystical flourishes. They were practical instructions. But here's the thing. The modern world has done everything it can to break that connection. Fluoride in your water, a constant artificial lighting that scrambles your internal rhythms, endless screens that teach your eyes to flicker but never truly see. This isn't just bad for your health, it's a full-on attack on perception. And they dressed it up in the language of progress. They took your natural sensitivity and labeled it overthinking. They took your inner knowing and dismissed it as woo. They told you the sixth sense doesn't exist while selling you a life of overstimulation fear and endless distraction. Why? Because someone who sees beyond appearances can't be manipulated by appearances. They've worked overtime to convince you you're blind. But blindness is not your natural state. It was manufactured. And more people are waking up, piercing through the fog and remembering what it means to really see. These people aren't special. They're not chosen. They just chose. They chose to remember. And here's the truth. Some teachings can't survive the noise of this platform. If you're ready to go deeper to get the kind of knowledge we literally can't say here, then check out the free newsletter Insights Academy. The link is in the description. And right now, you'll also get the Kybalion as a free ebook. Don't miss that, seriously. Now let's talk about how this all works, because the pineal gland isn't like a switch you flip on. It's more like a dial. And the technique Thoth left behind, it's not about blasting the third eye open. It's about tuning it, like a radio. You can't just turn it on and expect to hear a clear signal. You have to match its frequency. You have to align. That takes work, stillness, breath, presence. And most importantly, a willingness to unlearn everything you've been taught about perception. Most people are asleep with their eyes wide open. They move through life reacting, consuming, obeying, but never actually seeing. They chase things on the outside, unaware that their very ability to perceive has been hijacked. That's what the pineal gland gives back. Not just mystical visions or dreams, but your perception itself. It's the place where light and sound come together inside your mind, where images aren't projected from the outside world, but rise up from within you. That's why the ancient initiates spent years in silence and darkness doing breathwork. They were training this inner lens not to fantasize, but to see through the illusion. Ever had a moment where time slowed down, where you sensed something deeper behind someone's words, where you dreamt something and then it happened? That wasn't coincidence. That was the beginning. That was vision waking up. But you were probably told to ignore it, to brush it off, to get back to reality. Because the system depends on your blindness. Because once enough people start seeing the game ends, inner vision isn't just imagination. It's not fantasy. It's not daydreaming. It's real perception. The kind that doesn't rely on your eyes. It starts off quiet, like a whisper on the edge of thought. But over time, it becomes a second language, a deeper vision layered beneath the world you've been shown. And here's the wild part. It's always been there. You just forgot how to access it. And now you're starting to remember. Science is finally catching up to what the mystics have known for millennia, that perception isn't limited to your eyes. Neuroimaging now shows that the pineal gland, though buried deep in the brain, is actually light sensitive. Yeah, this tiny organ in the middle of your brain reacts to light even though it's not connected to your eyes. On the surface, science says it regulates melatonin and sleep cycles. And yes, that's true. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. In ancient teachings, the pineal gland wasn't just a hormone regulator, it was an antenna, a receiver for subtle frequencies, for intuition, for energetic signals that exist beyond the five senses, for dimensions of awareness that most people never even touch. And that might sound out there until you realize your entire body already translates vibration into experience. Think about it, your ears convert air pressure into sound. Your eyes convert light into images. Why is it so crazy to believe there's a third system, a deeper one, that converts energy into insight? Thoth spoke of this, the ability to see through time, to perceive energy within form. He wasn't describing fantasy. He was describing what happens when your mind is tuned to a different bandwidth, one that exists parallel to ordinary life. When this tuning begins, you don't just see a person smile, you sense the emotion behind it. You hear not just words, but the energy underneath them. You don't just read text on a page, you start picking up the vibration behind the message, the hidden meaning, the intention. This is what perception was always meant to be. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt something was off even before anyone spoke? Or known who was about to call you just seconds before your phone lit up? Have you ever sensed that someone was lying to you even though they said all the right things? That's your inner vision. That's the whisper trying to get through the noise. But we've been trained to ignore that whisper. You were told logic is king, that if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. That intuition is unreliable, childish even. But why would they tell you that? Because if you trust your inner sight, you become immune to their narratives. You're no longer controllable. This kind of vision doesn't make you special. It makes you aware. And awareness in a system built on distraction is a threat. Inner vision isn't about seeing psychedelic lights behind your eyelids. It's about tuning into the architecture of reality, the subtle fields of intention, emotion, and energy that shape every interaction and every environment. And once you activate it even just a little, your life starts to change. You stop making decisions out of fear. You stop following pressure. You begin making choices based on resonance. You trust what feels right, not just what looks right. You start to feel the energy of truth, not because someone said it, but because you recognize it. And here's something even wilder: this inner sight doesn't stop at the present moment. With practice, it stretches across time. You begin to sense the consequences of your choices before you make them. Not like fortune telling, but like resonance tracking, feeling into the timelines that open up based on your decisions. Your soul knows. Most people call it a gut feeling, but it's more than that. It's your inner vision awakening. At first, it shows up in subtle ways. A pull towards something you can't explain. A no that feels louder than a yes. A dream that lingers in your mind all day. A flicker of light behind your eyelids just before you fall asleep. Don't brush it off. That's the activation. That's the lens beginning to open. And as it opens, your perception expands. You begin to notice what others don't. Patterns, energies, truths layered beneath the illusion. It's like reality suddenly has depth. You don't just look at the world, you look into it. Thoth never shouted these teachings. He encoded them in rhythm and metaphor and vibration, Because real wisdom doesn't come with a flashing neon sign, it waits for those who are ready to decode it. The emerald tablets weren't meant to be read like a recipe. They're keys to a locked door inside you. A process, a sequence, a kind of internal alchemy that flips the switch on the part of you that has been asleep your entire life. And this process, it doesn't involve magic spells. It doesn't require robes or crystals or chanting in ancient languages. It's a science, a spiritual one, passed down through sacred geometry, through frequency, through symbol. Thoth's words were precise even when wrapped in metaphor. He wrote about the fire within the eye of light, the rise from darkness into the light of the soul. He wasn't being poetic. He was laying out steps, what we would now call a neuroenergetic sequence. And it doesn't begin with belief. It begins with breath. Because breath is frequency, breath is vibration, and vibration is the language of the unseen. The process starts in silence, not just outer silence, but inner stillness. The kind of stillness most people haven't experienced since they were children. You start by pulling your attention inward, not to escape the world, but to reorient your awareness. And then you breathe, not shallow, distracted breathing, but rhythmic, intentional, conscious breathing. Breath that syncs your body to the deeper frequency of the earth. Thoth wrote that you must breathe in rhythm with the beat of the earth. And modern science, it's confirming that now. Studies show breath affects brainwaves, and brainwaves determine perception. As your breath deepens and your senses quiet, something shifts. You move from thought to presence, and at this stage, something begins to rise. Thoth called it the turning inward, when the light within the body is drawn upward. It's the beginning of what mystics call the inner ascent, the flow of energy up the spine toward the crown, the alignment of the body into a tuning fork. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is your physiology. Your body was built for this. The energy travels up the central channel, and the pineal gland, like a crystal suspended in the brain, begins to focus and amplify that energy into inner light. And in that state, vision shifts. You're no longer seeing with your eyes. You're seeing with your mind's core. Flashes of light, geometric patterns, archetypal imagery, vibrations that you can feel buzzing through your cells. The noise of the world drops away. And for the first time, you're not seeing what the world looks like. You're seeing what it's made of. Form within form, pattern beneath pattern, everything vibrating. Thoth spoke of the light that cannot be seen with the eyes, but only with the spirit. He meant this. This perception. This is real. But here's the thing, it's not fast. It's not flashy. You can't force it. You can't hack your way in. You can't push your way to inner vision. You surrender into it. That's why most people miss it. They're too loud inside, too busy chasing answers outside. But those who return to silence, those who breathe with intention, those who dare to feel instead of force, they discover it. Because the emerald tablets never hid the method. They just waited for you to get quiet enough to finally hear. And when you finally begin to hear, not with your ears, but with your presence, everything shifts. Your dreams start to sharpen. Your sense of time changes. You begin feeling the energy in a room before anyone speaks. Conversations start sounding different, not because of what's said, but because of what's not. You notice patterns in people's behavior, the meaning behind their words, the vibration underneath a coincidence. You start to realize there's a whole second world moving beneath the one you were taught to believe was real. It's not a separate world, it's deeper, hidden in plain sight. And the more you witness it, the more you start to remember something strange. You've seen this before. You once knew how to live from this place. This isn't new, it's just been forgotten. Because neither you nor this world is solid. It only looks that way because your senses have been tuned to a narrow frequency band. But underneath the form, under the matter, under the identity, it's all vibration. All of it. Thoth knew this. That's why his teachings always came back to one fundamental principle. All is vibration. Not some things, not just the spiritual stuff. Oh, wow. Your thoughts, your feelings, your organs, your choices, your voice, your relationships, every single piece of you is vibrating. And the world you perceive, it's limited or expanded by how you're tuned. It's like trying to pick up a radio station. If you're off frequency, you won't hear anything. But the music is still there. The broadcast never stopped. You just couldn't receive it. Inner vision isn't some magical gift reserved for the few. It's not given, it's tuned. And tuning starts with how you move through your life. What you eat, what you consume, how you breathe, what you believe, how you feel. All of it sets your frequency. And if you live in a constant state of stress, fear, or overstimulation, your energy becomes noisy, dense, static-filled. And in that state, even if truth is pouring in around you, you won't catch the signal. Your antenna is jammed. Thoth's technique worked because it treated the body like an instrument. Breath was the tempo. Stillness was the space between notes. Attention was the tuning fork. Light and sound, real physical vibrations were the tools. And when they were applied with intention and precision, the whole system began to shift. Not temporarily, fundamentally. Your pineal gland, suspended in the brain like a little crystal lens, is uniquely sensitive to this shift. That's not myth, that's biology. Light doesn't just enter through your eyes, it enters through your skin. Sound doesn't just bounce off your ears, it alters your nervous system. Inner vision isn't an ethereal fantasy. It's your design, it's your hardware functioning as it was always meant to. But modern life, it pulls your frequency down. Processed foods, digital addiction, constant blue light, non-stop noise, emotional manipulation. These aren't just unhealthy habits, they're frequency dampeners. They disrupt your internal harmony. They keep you locked to the surface. Because a predictable human is easy to control. And someone who truly sees isn't predictable. Because when you see, you feel. You detect what's off, even if everything looks fine. You hear the fake note in someone's smile. You feel the crack in their tone, even when their words are perfect. That kind of clarity, that's dangerous to them. And Thoth knew it. That's why he didn't just write about this wisdom, he embedded it. In rhythm, in sound, in frequency. Even reading the Emerald Tablets out loud starts to shift you. There's a cadence in them, a pulse, a vibration that bypasses the rational mind and speaks to the deeper part of you. That's how energy works. It doesn't wait for your permission. It doesn't ask if you believe in it. It just affects you. But when you become conscious of it, now you can choose what affects you and, more importantly, what you tune into. Right now, your frequency has probably been tuned to fear, scarcity, doubt, noise. You've been programmed to view life as random, fragmented, chaotic. But once you start shifting that frequency through breath, stillness, presence, you start seeing something else. Pattern, coherence, structure. A deeper field starts to reveal itself. The one Thoth pointed to. The one where inner vision finally unlocks, not because you forced it, but because you became compatible with it. And when that happens, your perception expands. You begin to see code in the chaos. You hear truth in silence. You recognize people not by what they say, but by what they carry. You see through illusion. And here's the thing, you were never meant to be blind. Not like this. Not numb to your own instincts. Not disconnected from your deeper senses. Not walking through life with your third eye sealed shut. This isn't just a spiritual crisis, it's an engineered condition. This is a war on perception. And it's been going on for thousands of years. Because the most effective way to make someone blind isn't to take away their sight. It's to convince them they never had it. Look around. Everything in modern life is designed to dull your third eye. The fluoride in your water, the blue light on your screen, the constant distractions, the endless information without wisdom. This isn't about health, it's about perception. Your pineal gland is your gateway to vision, real vision. And it's been under siege since the moment you were born. It's wrapped in piezoelectric crystals, meaning it responds to pressure, to light, to vibration. But most of us were drowning in toxins, processed food, EMF radiation, artificial light that suppresses melatonin and scrambles your rhythms. Noise that never ends, notifications, traffic, endless chatter. Your nervous system is stuck in a loop of reaction. And when your body's in survival mode, you can't perceive subtle energy. You can't hear the whisper of intuition when your nervous system is screaming. Even your education played a role. You weren't taught to listen. You were taught to memorize. You were taught to obey. Imagination was dismissed. Intuition was ignored. Feeling was replaced with performance. And that is the deepest blindness of all. They've even made a joke out of it. The third eye is mocked, turned into memes, TikToks, punchlines. Why? Because if people laugh at something before they explore it, they'll never explore it at all. And that's the ultimate defense. Because if you ever did open that lens, even a little, everything would change. You'd stop trusting surface narratives. You'd feel the lie before it was spoken. You'd see the system for what it is, a carefully curated illusion held together by your attention. And the moment you stop feeding it, it begins to crack. The illusion only works if you stay distracted. But if you stop reacting and start perceiving, you break the spell. Inner vision isn't a superpower, it's a return. To clarity, to presence, to self. And that's the power Thoth preserved. Not belief, not dogma, vision. And now, it's waking up in you. If you're still with me, you're not just listening. You're resonating, and that's everything. You've remembered something. And now, if we're asun, you get to choose. Not with your eyes, with your sight.